The Drexery swarm didn't send envoys. It didn't sign treaties. It consumed. By the time the coalition intercepted the Sargax distress signal, all that remained was static. Another border, world gone. 2 billion civilians erased. The coalition called an emergency session. High commanders, strategists, and senior analysts convened inside the Citadel Hall, a floating fortress in neutral orbit. 43 species represented, 42 seats arranged in a perfect circle, and one standing soldier by the wall. Logan Vance didn't ask for a seat. He didn't complain when his name wasn't on the registry. He didn't raise his voice when the Drazathai envoy dismissed him with a curl of their spiked lip. Earth was not a strategic power, the envoy said. Humans were not culturally fit for diplomacy. Deathworlders, he added, didn't belong at the grown-ups table. The others murmured. No one objected. Logan stood silently, hand behind his back, a relic of violence tolerated only because the swarm made monsters necessary. He wasn't dressed for peace. His armor bore the marks of old campaigns, ceramite scorched and replated over muscle fiber. A scar ran from his neck down to the collarbone, still slightly inflamed. His expression never changed. When the council began, he listened. He was not expected to speak. The Jilnari chancellor proposed evacuation protocols for outer ring colonies. The Vexery admiral countered with containment strategies. The Zarnik tribunal advocated for economic pressure. Logan watched as maps were displayed, simulations run, theoretical losses debated. One model showed acceptable losses as high as 18%. The SOAR faction proposed controlled surrender of 3 systems, buying time for diplomatic efforts. Logan shifted his weight. The motion drew eyes. A minor species representative glanced nervously. A recording lens flickered, discreet, but trained on him. The swarm had just consumed a major industrial world, and the first response from the most powerful military alliance in galactic history was to consider folding. He scanned their body language. None of them had seen frontline combat. Not against the Drexery. Not anywhere. Their uniforms were ceremonial. Their strategies were simulations. Their courage was synthetic. He remembered Epsilon Vega. How the Drexery tore through titanium gates as if they were paper. How their claws dug into flesh and steel alike. How his squad died in less than 7 minutes, leaving him to rig a reactor overload while bleeding out from 6 separate wounds. He survived by clamping a power cable to his side to cauterize the worst of it. It wasn't his first solo survival, nor his last. The Zarnik tribunal requested an adjournment to process data streams. The council agreed. Logan turned to leave but was stopped by a young lieutenant, Vrillin species, nervous and uncertain. "I saw your file," he said, almost whispering. "You led the Operation Black Tide push?" Logan nodded. That operation was marked classified, even for a coalition strategist. Logan didn't answer. Behind them, a group of delegates passed, discussing yield calculations. Logan could hear them debating which planets could be sacrificed for statistical advantage. He moved to the briefing lounge. Not to rest. He didn't rest much these days. He brought up archive footage from Earth's war archives. Not simulations. Real combat. Real death. Trenches. Urban warfare. Hostage rescue in sub-zero ruins. Executions. Fires. Logan skimmed until he found the one he needed. Battle of Arcline. 17 years ago. Earth had faced its own extinction, this time not from aliens, but themselves. Nuclear near misses, bioweapon outbreaks, failed peace talks. The footage showed Logan's unit pushing into a chemical weapon facility held by human extremists. His own species. No air support. No reinforcements. The mission was considered impossible. They completed it in 8 hours. Logan came out the only survivor. The building detonated behind him. The next morning, the council reconvened. Logan stood at the same spot. A technician offered him a chair. He didn't take it. The briefing began with the announcement of a new planetary loss. Drexery had taken Lumar 9. Estimated casualties. 3 billion. Delegates erupted. Accusations. Denials. Panic. Logan didn't move. Then came the question, what now? The Vexery suggested deploying automated fleets. The Drazathai countered with viral targeting algorithms. The Sor proposed a decoy operation. Sacrifice a less valuable species to distract the swarm. Logan spoke for the first time. You'll lose another 5 worlds before any of that works. The room froze. The Jilnari Chancellor asked what made him so certain. Logan replied, "You're fighting them like you're trying to impress each other. The swarm doesn't negotiate. It consumes. If you delay again, more civilians die. If you waste time arguing, you'll lose the inner ring. Then you'll beg Earth to help again." A pause. The Drazathai envoy bristled. Human arrogance, always pretending to know more than your place allows. Logan didn't blink. We've fought the swarm in places you've never heard of. We've buried more soldiers than you've trained. Your simulations are 2 decades behind reality. The Vryn strategist interrupted. Prove it. Logan uploaded classified mission logs. No sound, no commentary, just raw footage. 8 squads dropped on Eros Theta. Human-led units. The feed showed plasma fire tearing through swamp terrain. Logan taking command when the alien captain froze. Coordinated maneuvers. 0 hesitation. The operation succeeded. 92% human casualties. Full swarm nest eliminated. Logan stared forward. That was 3 weeks ago. Several delegates murmured. A few looked away. The Drazathai spoke again, quieter. Why weren't we informed? You didn't ask. The council dismissed him again. No action taken. Just another delay. That evening, Logan walked through the lower levels of the Citadel. No guards. No escorts. He was used to being alone. He passed a window overlooking the stars. A janitor approached, older, Terran colony accent. Recognized him. Saluted. Logan nodded. Said nothing. He returned to his quarters. A single cot, a desk, no personal effects. A combat knife on the table. He stared at it for a long time. The next morning, a report came in. Another system under attack. No response fleet ready. Logan submitted a tactical deployment plan. It was reviewed, not approved. At the next session, he stood again. You asked why we survive. It's not because we're stronger. It's because we've already lived through extinction. You're just getting started. The Drazathai motioned to remove him from the chamber. The vote passed. Logan left without a word. Later that night, the Drexery hit a mid-ring station. No defenses. A communication delay meant by the time the coalition responded, the station had gone silent. Logan watched the footage. He recognized the station's design. He'd helped fortify its twin 6 months ago. The same structural weaknesses. He'd warned them then, too. The moment the broadcast showed Logan stepping off the dropship, the tone of the council changed. His boots hit the surface of the shattered colony without ceremony, accompanied by a unit handpicked from volunteers. Only 3. A Torvani sniper who had watched her homeworld burn, a Jarnik engineer who lost faith in the commanders, and a silent drone operator who never asked for a name. They followed Logan not because of protocol, but because they believed he might get them out alive. The swarm had already broken surface defenses and was tunneling into infrastructure. No waiting for reinforcements. No perimeter to hold. Logan gave no speech. He pointed, moved, and they followed. Within 2 hours, they'd shut down power nodes, rerouted thermal channels, and collapsed a tunnel mouth with explosives made from broken shuttle fuel lines. They didn't sleep. They didn't speak unless necessary. Every movement had purpose. Above them, the coalition watched. Live feeds streamed to every command post, every council chamber, every military academy. Logan's feed showed him gutting a Drexery with a plasma cutter when ammo ran out. His armor cracked down the side. He stapled his own thigh shut mid-combat. The Torvani covered him. The sniper's breathing never broke rhythm. Back in orbit, the debate had changed. Delegates now spoke in hushed tones. No one mocked. No one interrupted the playback. The feed didn't need interpretation. It was survival, not by design, but by instinct. A kind of movement and coordination that didn't come from theory, but trauma. For the first time, the council asked a question none had dared. What is Earth? The first answer came from an archivist, one of the oldest beings in the Coalition's History Division. He pulled up Earth's classification, Death World Class 5. But something was wrong. Footage showed environmental instability, multi-vector extinction events, apex predators without natural checks, geopolitical upheaval every few decades. Earth wasn't Class 5. It was Class 10, misclassified from the beginning. The algorithm had rejected the idea a sentient species could evolve in that kind of chaos. Another delegate searched the military records. Earth had been part of 2 galactic wars. Never the instigator. Always the one cleaning up failed peace treaties. When Drexery scouts first emerged, humans had already engaged them in deep space. That encounter hadn't been logged by Central Coalition records. It had been buried under civilian diplomatic backlogs. Logan had been there. No one asked how he survived. No one wanted to hear the answer. On the surface, Logan's team lost contact briefly. A swarm tunnel collapsed during their extraction. The engineer died digging them out, hand shredded from jagged rocks. Logan didn't leave the body behind. He carried it to the evac point. The sniper offered to stay back and cover their exit. Logan refused. He carried her too when she was wounded by acidic spore shrapnel. The drone operator gave his life to manually trigger a thermal charge that blocked the last tunnel. His name wasn't even listed in Coalition records. When Logan arrived back on the Citadel, there was no celebration, just silence. Delegates stood, not for honor, for guilt. They asked him to speak. He refused, not out of spite, but because he didn't believe they'd listen. It wasn't until the youngest delegate, the same Vrillin lieutenant who had once asked about Black Tide, stood and said, "Show us what we never saw," that Logan agreed. He didn't bring a presentation. He uploaded Earth's war archives. Real history. No edits. The first file played footage from the Arctic siege. Sub-zero combat. Logan's breath fogged the lens as he moved through whiteout conditions, dragging 2 wounded soldiers through an ice trench. Human engineers triggered controlled avalanches to bury enemy mechs. The swarm hadn't been involved in that one. It had been humans fighting humans. And still, it looked more savage than any known Drexery engagement. Next file, Operation Silent Flood. Covert operations in jungle environments under triple canopy pressure. Biowarfare active. No drones. No orbital support. Human squads moved through mud, disease, and lethal fauna to intercept bioterrorist labs. The average survival rate was 12%. Logan led 4 of those missions. Survived each. He didn't say how. The footage said enough. Coalition delegates whispered among themselves. Not fear this time. Recognition. Every piece of footage showed humans not just surviving, but adapting, turning desperation into doctrine, improvisation into strategy, pain into fuel. When questioned how they trained their soldiers, Logan uploaded footage of Earth's military academies. Live combat simulations, survival field drills, psychological stress exams. Soldiers trained under starvation, sensory deprivation, thermal extremes. One delegate asked, "Why would you put your own through that?" Logan responded, "Because the universe doesn't care how we feel." A historian mentioned Earth's death toll across 1,000 years. Global wars, famine, viral outbreaks, environmental collapses. Every other species had adapted to stability. Earth had been forced to evolve inside catastrophe. Another file showed Terran civilians during wartime. Children learning to disarm explosives in war zones. Volunteers pulling wounded from rubble without armor. Teenagers coding AI subroutines to scramble orbital bombardments. A source strategist said, "Your civilians fight harder than our special forces." Logan answered, "They have to." An argument erupted. Drazothide demanded limits on Earth's military expansion. Vryn counter-proposed increasing Earth's command roles. Vexery abstained. Logan watched them bicker. He said, "None of you understand. We don't want command. We just want the war to end." The council proposed reviewing Logan's full mission log. He denied the request. Said if they couldn't trust him now, they never would. The Torvani sniper, still recovering, recorded a private message to the council. She described Logan in combat. Precise, calm, but brutal when needed. She said it wasn't rage that drove him. It was restraint. She'd seen what happened when he didn't hold back. She said they were alive because of his discipline, not his aggression. A Drazithide general publicly accused Earth of cultivating violence. Logan answered by showing footage of Earth's scientific collaboration during wartime, engineers developing shield technology during invasion campaigns, medics creating synthetic blood for wounded non-humans. Earth saved more alien lives than any other species during the last campaign. None of it had been logged for recognition. One analyst discovered that Logan had served across 32 operations in 13 sectors. 11 of those missions had been denied official support. He volunteered anyway. On 4 occasions, he extracted entire civilian populations without backup. He never filed for commendation. When asked why, he said, "What's the medal for? Doing my job." Coalition members began revising Earth status in real time. The reclassification report listed Earth as strategic species, Tier Prime. The motion was still under debate when another swarm wave appeared on long-range sensors. Estimated arrival: for days. A core planet was in its path. Population: 16 billion. The swarm struck 2 hours ahead of schedule. The Coalition's defensive lines were incomplete, the planetary shields at 70%, and the orbital cannons miscalibrated from lack of synchronization. Civilian evacuation was still ongoing. Every command station across the system had the same question. Where was Logan? He didn't check in. No updates. No telemetry. His dropship signal went dark after entering the lower atmosphere. Coalition command assumed the worst. No one said it, but the conclusion settled into the room like smoke. The deathworlder was gone. Then came the seismic reports. Underground detonations. Energy spikes inside swarm tunnels. Local militia picked up audio. Brief, grainy, punctuated by gunfire, then silence. One signal broke, through on a backup frequency. Tunnel breach. Squad alive. Executing nest collapse protocol. Logan was alive. Underground. Alone with 3 volunteers. No exit confirmed. The swarm had already penetrated the city's second perimeter. Coalition defense squads were overwhelmed, communication lines collapsing. Automated turrets fell back into manual mode. Commanders called for support, but Earth had no more forces deployed. Just Logan. He and his team moved beneath the surface, carving a path through hive tunnels with handheld charges and scavenged energy packs. They had no reinforcements, no navigation system, just Logan's instinct. The lieutenant was injured, spinal damage from a tunnel collapse. Logan refused to leave her. He carried her while the Torvani covered their rear with a makeshift grenade launcher crafted from drone parts. The deeper they went, the worse the environment became. Radiation, heat spikes, collapsing ceilings, acid residue, live Drexery spores. Logan tore out his own air filter when it clogged and held his breath through the next corridor. When the Zarnik drone pilot was impaled by hive tendrils, Logan extracted him, cauterized the wound, and kept moving. Coalition Command picked up live feeds again. The lieutenant's armor cam had reactivated. The stream showed Logan planting the last of the explosives around the hive core. His voice was clear. No remote detonation. Signals jammed. Manual trigger only. The Torvani argued. Logan said nothing. He handed her the lieutenant. The pilot was barely conscious. Logan activated the last beacon and whispered coordinates to the evac vessel. "Go now. I'll seal from here." She refused. Logan ordered her. When she tried to protest, he shoved her into the escape shaft and triggered the booster manually. The evac signal blinked red, then green. Capsule rising. Beacon silent. Then came the last message, broadcast from a low-band signal still active in the debris. Logan's voice. "They'll tell you I was a monster, a killer. They'll say Earth breeds violence and death. Let them. But remember this. We never asked for your war. You brought it to us. And when you were too afraid to fight, we did it anyway." The detonation registered on every scanner in orbit. Hive core destroyed. Tunnels collapsed. Swarm network shattered. Surface forces disoriented. Coalition units pushed forward and wiped out the remainder within hours. For the first time, the swarm retreated. Logan didn't make it to the evac point. Search drones found fragments of his armor 2 days later. No remains confirmed. His name was added to Fallen. No funeral. No monument. Just a line in the classified logs. Mission successful. Operator presumed Kia. The council met in emergency session. Every species sent full attendance. No delays. No procedural debates. The footage was played. Start to finish. No edits. No one interrupted. By the end, the room was silent. The Zarnik representative stood first. Proposed full military integration of Terran combat doctrine. Passed unanimously. The Vryn proposed Earth be given a permanent seat on the War Council with veto power. Also passed. The Drazathai abstained. Public reaction was immediate. Civilian uprisings demanded Earth's inclusion in planetary defense networks. Academies began adopting Terran strategy in training protocols. Recruitment centers saw spikes in enlistment, but not from humans. From alien species who wanted to fight, like the one who died saving them. The Torvani sniper submitted a private log to the council. It was played without announcement. People feared him, called him dangerous. I've seen danger. I've lived through hell. He wasn't the scariest thing I saw. He was a calm in the storm, the one who didn't break when everything else did. The council quietly issued a formal commendation to Logan Vance, highest honor ever granted to a non-council operative. Earth declined the ceremony. Instead, a message was delivered by Earth's ambassador. He didn't do it for medals. He did it because he believed none of you could. He wasn't wrong. New strategic doctrines listed Earth as a central asset. Death world status was updated to priority level threat and strategic deterrent. Not a warning, a recognition. If they could survive Earth, they could survive anything. That became the new coalition infantry motto. The next year, another swarm threat emerged. Coalition response was swift. Mixed units. Terran instructors embedded. Victory in 3 days. 0 civilian losses. First time in recorded history. The youngest generation of soldiers across the galaxy began studying Earth's history, not for fascination, for preparation. They studied Logan's missions, tactics, survival records. His statements became doctrine. His silence became legend. One statement, recovered from an old training debrief, was etched onto the wall of the new Coalition War Academy. You don't win by hoping. You win by being too damn hard to kill. His legacy spread across systems, not through propaganda, through results. Planets he saved now carried his name in quiet memorials, not shrines, not statues, just marks of survival. Some said he'd faked his death. Others believe he became something else, beyond rank, beyond human. It didn't matter. He'd never asked for their belief. He'd earned their respect. Years later, during a memorial summit, a Drexery Warcast effector asked the Coalition one question. Why did you let him die alone? No one answered. Earth never filed a complaint, never demanded recognition. They kept fighting, kept saving lives, kept showing up where no one else would. Because that's what deathworlders did. The Coalition would never forget the day they denied Logan Vance a seat, nor the day they realized he didn't need one. He had already earned the entire table. The truth wasn't that a deathworlder had died saving them. The truth was that they had spent generations fearing the very force that would one day save their species from extinction, and they nearly silenced it before it had the chance. Logan Vance had never asked for trust, approval, or status. He only ever asked one thing, to be sent where others wouldn't go. That was what made him different. That was what made him human. And that, in the end, was what left the galaxy speechless.